Hello. You are watching an informative video to learn more about an English word. Perfect. P-E-R-F-E-C-T. Perfect. Definitions of perfect. Adjective. Having all the required or desirable elements, qualities, or characteristics, as good as it is possible to be. Perfect.
What's good, beautiful people? I am DW. My pronouns are they, them, and theirs. And I am joined by the fantastic Liam.
What's up, everybody? My name is Liam, and my pronouns are he, him, and his.
And Liam and I, we've been kicking it since elementary school, and you are listening to What's Perfect Really podcast.
And on this podcast, we talk about moments in music, the impact those moments had on our lives, our friendship, and the whole world.
And our mission is to bring light to the perfect moments in music we think deserve a little more appreciation.
And on today's show, we're going to talk about a 1997 verse from CeeLo Green on a song called Decisions, Decisions on a compilation album by Soul Assassins from a guy who produced it named DJ Muggs. Fucking deep into fucking hip hop shit. So I'm going to make a case as to why I think this is a perfect moment in music for me. Let's get into it. Yeah, shit is dope. All right.
Yo, that was a deep in the backpack. Yeah. Deep in the backpack rap.
Yeah, we're all the way into nerd rap music right now.
Yes, we're deep in the archives. All right. What's the song about?
All right. So this song is it's kind of one of these 90s boom bap rap songs. I think what makes it a little interesting is as much as you think of 90s boom bap rap music as New York City, this is actually a producer from the West Coast. It's the song is Goody Mob, which is an Atlanta-based rap group. And the verse I'm highlighting is CeeLo Green, who, again, I think most people know as Gnarls Barkley and the singer. So, you know, a lot of things that you wouldn't directly, you know, like coordinate all those things to create this classic boom bap moment. But in this case, it actually works out. And I think if you were to understand each artist as much as you can, it actually makes a lot of sense, but may not immediately become evident. And what the song's about is the broader song is Goody Mob kind of, they're just bestowing their thoughts and ideas on the world. And then CeeLo Green specifically goes into a long verse about young artists and the challenges they face and the mistakes that they make and kind of the broader perspective of how that fits into, I think he's, you know, commenting on young Black people who are artists trying to make it in the industry and then the industry overall. Yeah, that's what the song's about. The song's about a lot.
All right, go ahead.
Were you aware of the song, or is this something that
this is a mouthful?
Yeah, listen, that was not
easy.
It's
not easy, but you're doing it. All right, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Do we do perfect moments in music now, or do we not perfect moments in music, perfect moments in our lives?
We can do whatever we want.
Okay, I'm excited
it's
for
our
this
show.
This
all
week.
Right, so now I'm gonna let's say before we get into all the details, what's a perfect moment that occurred for you since the last time we've seen each other?
I was in Washington, D.C. And in Washington, D.C., like many places elsewhere, they have those scooters. Have you seen those? A city you go and there's like scooters that are just scattered around the city and you use like an app and you rent the scooter and then you just go.
I've seen rent the bicycles.
Okay.
Is it an electric scooter or is it a regular scooter?
It's an electric scooter. Like you kick and then you go.
Is it like a razor? Your foot is pedaling it scooter and you're just standing, or is it a seated scooter where you have the two motorized wheels and you go up to 65 miles per hour? Like what kind of scooter is this?
So it's like a razor, but it's battery powered. So once you do your first kick, from then on forward, the scooter just takes you and it goes about 12, 15 miles an hour, like as fast as you would go if you were full sprint. And what the disappointing thing where we live is we live near New York City and we live near Boston, and neither of these cities are implementing the scooter life.
Yeah.
Washington, D.C. has the scooter life, and it is one of the funnest things that you can do. I highly recommend it for everybody. It is dangerous. You got to be careful, but one of my favorite things to do is just bomb around a city on a scooter. That's my perfect moment of the week.
That sounds amazing.
It's really fun.
Like amazing.
You would love it. I know, especially you would definitely love it.
I love scooters. Like I love scooters.
I know this.
I've owned a scooter like pretty much the majority of my life. Okay. But I sacrificed it and gave it away to a kid. So, gotta love the kids.
The greater good.
Perfect moment for me. So there's been a lot of death in my life in the past month. But when I think about the moments of, like, shout out to my mom. You're very missed and you're very loved. Okay. But also, my spouse's grandmother passed away too. And so there's many things that happen with death, but one of the things that was just like this perfect highlight was after, one of the funerals. I'm having a conversation, and one of my spouse's brothers lives in France and is from Paris, and we're talking about rap. And I'm talking about it with her two brothers, and it's this funny conversation. We start freestyling. It's a funny interaction that happens, right? I'm like, one's playing the piano. I'm like, yo, so freestyle in French. Let's do this, right? Mm-hmm. We're having this conversation, and then we start talking about French rap, and one of the brothers is like, rap is very specific to like North America. It is there's nothing like listening to rap from where it is from, where it originates. And I was like, why? Because there's different cadences, like there's different words and phrases that are in French rap. Like, why is it, why does it feel so great listening to it, in the English language where it originates from? And they were saying because the way that the words hit, the way that they hit on the beat, it's made for English. It's made for people who speak English. And then he started to tell me what was going on with rap in French. Like when people start rhyming really fast in French, mm-hmm. because of the way that the language goes, it starts sounding like, and like, he was like, when you listen to rap for a long time, it's like, and he started rapping in French and it's like, I was dying. A lot of mouth, I never thought about it, but I thought about like the way that the language works in French is that there's different emphasis on different words and different vocabulary. But I was like, damn, I never thought about that. But it gave me like the heartiest chuckle to think about people rapping really fast in French, and how when he demonstrated it, I died laughing. So that is my perfect moment.
That's a little bit like I've been to the opera, and most opera that we think of is in Italian. And especially when you're American, I don't know Italian. And my whole experience kind of peripherally of opera is this like big opera singer singing in a language I don't understand. And it sounds beautiful, amazing, emotional, all the stuff. They have operas in English and it does not hit the same at all. Even though I now know whatever the person's saying, that almost like the whole experience is tainted. Like, I'd rather not know what the guy's saying and just hear him.
But it reminded me of when we did the episode on Big Punisher. We talked about rappers who there's native tongue is Spanish. Mm-hmm. Because when I listen to rap in Spanish, it sounds different, but it's much faster. Yeah. Like, so Big Pun was a very fast rapper. But when you think about the Spanish language and the way that you have to like roll and use your tongue around the language, it makes sense that people who speak Spanish can really have an authority over their tongue in terms of rhyme. Yeah.
Okay. That's a very good perfect moment.
It was, though. It was funny. It's funny as hell. And I was high. So it was. Oh, wow. Yeah. It was like
deep. Like your mind's thinking about shit a whole other way. Like, oh shit, I never thought about that.
Right. So we're going into, oh my gosh, you're asking me a question about this song. Had I heard it? What was your question?
Have you heard the song before? Or the verse?
No.
Yeah, this is obscure.
Not at all. I didn't even really listen to Goody Mob like that. You know how I have my preconceived judgments and stuff like that. When I hear get wind of anything that was like
problematic,
people dirty, problematic, like fuck this shit. I get judgmental and shit, and I won't listen to a whole bunch of stuff. And then you'll introduce something, I'll be like, oh, that wasn't that bad. Yeah, I still don't fuck with that part, but
I block out all these other things.
No, but I listened to Goody Mob a little bit after this, and I was like, damn, I was definitely missing out on a whole movement. Like, where was I? Okay.
Yeah, no, they were amazing. I think I'll talk about it a little bit later too. It's just interesting how we always think of like rap as this very regional phenomenon. And like, if it's from this area, it has to sound like this. If it's from that area, it has to sound like that. And like I was saying, sounds very New York 90s ish, but none of the artists that are part of this are New York based. In fact, they're dramatically different, that they're the West Coast and down South.
Okay. Can I pause you real quick and get on myself a little bit?
Yeah, please do.
Because my judgment puts me in a place where I'm like, we're not covering this song. And then I'd be like, but this song is amazing. Like, this is how problematic my thought process is. And I'm calling myself out because it's nonsensical sometimes. It's nonsensical. And it makes sense. So I'm always undecided and changing my mind about certain things. So I'm just calling myself on that.
Do you feel like what comes first? This is getting shut down, or like I like this, wait a second, but there's some issues that are really not just quote unquote kind of okay, but actually a huge deal and a big problem?
Okay, so I think that it is, I'll be bopping to some shit and then I'll hear some outrageous shit and I'm like, fuck, now I can't listen to that song.
Yeah.
And it's just like, then it's the decision of, can I not listen to that song? Like, and then I find myself, doing that thing like, well, was it really that bad? You get yourself there and it's like, oh, well, maybe I'll just listen to it in the car when nobody hears me, like when nobody's watching. Right. And then you're just in this whole wave of stuff. And then there's absolute artists who I'm like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like every time I listen to the song, I just hear things playing out and I'm like, I cannot do this.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's the imagery. Like if the imagery is really strong too, I find that if I can keep recalling the events that this person did and I can't listen to the music, it takes over my mind. You know what I mean?
I noticed that when I'm driving around, so my wife is not like born and raised in America.
Why?
So yeah. And I'm like, oh, I have to play you this old song that I remember from when I was 18 and the shit was amazing. And then I'll press play and I won't like vet the song first because this is just off my own recollection. And in the 90s, like the misogyny to women that was just so casual and like, just like, yeah. I think what's most offensive about it, because there's still like stuff today that is problematic, but I feel like there's like, it was so like effortlessly thrown around. Like it wasn't even like, hey, maybe I should say this in a way that makes it a little bit palatable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then I'll play it and then my wife will look at me and she'll just have this face like, you disgusting monster. And I'll be like, I forgot about that part. Like, this is what you wanted to play for me. And
when you hear it, it's like watching those movies. Like I'll go on the go through the, oh my gosh, what is it? Streaming services.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I love this movie. And then you watch it and you're like, fuck. That's happening to me a lot with my spouse. I'm like, yo, you got to watch this traditional Black movie. And then I'll be like, oh shit, what was I watching when I was a kid? You know?
And it's tough because I'll still love parts of it, but I just like, there's other parts that I used to just casually like pass through. And now I'm like, wow, like, damn, that shit was wild. Can't believe that motherfucker said that.
Right. So Goody Mob, I wasn't really like it. Goody Mob as a movement is 25 years. Mm-hmm. They released another song in 2020 album.
Yeah.
What was it? What was it called? Survivor's Kit.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know their new stuff, but you are right. They're this huge movement. They were incredibly influential in this like 90s Atlanta rap music. I think a lot of people, when they hear Atlanta rap, they immediately go to like the trap music. Remember that whole like in my white tee, like whatever, all those songs. And there was, meanwhile, before that, there was this really hardcore rapper hip hop scene that was really alive and well in Atlanta. I think basically you had like New York City and then Atlanta and the West Coast were kind of it. And Atlanta was like really coming with it for a long time.
But when did the Atlanta movement happen in music? Right. Because there was always stuff happening.
Yeah.
There's always stuff happening that we don't know about. But this is 97.
Yeah, this is 97. Yeah.
So Goody Mob's first album was in 95, I think. Soul Food? 95. Yeah, I think
like
it was
I
95.
can't refute or confirm, but it sounds correct. Yeah.
In that time, so Goody Mob comes out. I'm imagining Outkast is happening around there.
Outkast is out. Yep.
What else is the music landscape that you can recall at that time?
So I think you have like Atlanta has always been a very musical city. From my knowledge, you have even who's the producer? Jermaine Dupri. Yeah, Jermaine Dupri.
Yeah.
And he was doing more R&B stuff at that point, but it was still like this powerful music city. But I think when it was just strictly hip hop, it was this Goody Mob and Outkast and, you know, amazing lyrics, the beats, all of that stuff. It still sounded different enough from New York that it was obviously a Southern music, but not to the extent of like what we now think of when we think of Southern music. In my opinion, what happened is you had Atlanta kind of keeping a more purest form of hip hop in the 90s. Okay. And New Orleans created this like distinct sound that I think at the time people criticized as not being very like, the art form was being tainted by this New Orleans style, like Cash Money records. Oh,
with Cash Money taking over for the 99 and 2000, you're talking about that?
Exactly. I'm not saying people are right, but I think there was like this feeling like, well, that's like lesser rap music. And then
it's so interesting how we get into the, what is it? It's like, I want to say oppression Olympics. No matter where we go, it's like, well, that's a lesser form. This is high art rap. You know what I mean? Like how we continue to manifest the colonizer mentality in everything. That shit is wild to me.
And I think what's interesting is like, so gatekeeping, right, is what New York City was doing to like New Orleans rap music at this time. Like, listen, guys, you guys aren't allowed in the club. You guys need to like be out there. And for me, in my opinion, part of what hurt New York City hip hop so much was this hardcore gatekeeping that they really just isolated themselves to the point where like no one was fucking with them. And then it's like, all right, well, now you're on your own and we doing our own thing.
No, that like I'm looking at even when did NWA West Coast, that was in the 80s, 90s?
Yeah, that was like late 80s, early 90s. Yeah.
Now I'm thinking about that because you have Bone Thugs and Harmony around the time when Goody Mob's out. Yeah. Phariside. Wu-Tang is still there. Dr. Dre, this is when Dr. Dre is Dre and not part of NWA. LL still doing things, but this is the Hey Lover, that era, not Mama Said Knock You Out era.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the landscape because I'm thinking about why Goody Mob was,
well, so I think one thing that I was going to talk to here that you're hitting on right now is there was all this different rap music going on, and rap music is ascending in pop culture and becoming this, you know, commercial success. But you still have this is before the internet is totally taken over the world. It exists, but not like how we think of it now. And then you have this thing called underground hip hop, which is what a lot of people now, when they reflect back on this time period, think of like backpack rap music, boom bap rap music. And I think Goody Mob fell enough into that category that it's still appropriate to call them kind of an underground hip hop movement. And when you were in the 90s, what did underground rap music mean to you? Or was it off your radar completely? Or was it something that you thought about but didn't like? Or did you secretly like it?
I don't know if it was something that was completely on my radar, because I think I would consider, this is how I know it wasn't really on my radar. Okay, so there's a couple different directions I can go here. I could consider Onyx underground, but then Onyx became really popular.
Yeah.
You know, so was Cypress Hill around at that time?
They were. Yep.
Cypress Hill would be considered like underground.
Yep.
You know, but then they had that really big hit or something. So
Jump Around. Yeah.
Jump Around. Right. So I don't know if I was missing, I could have been missing 1,000,001 things. Right. And then there's just kind of that, I think at this time, I don't remember when this like Back to Africa movement in music was happening, where the medallions were coming out and it was like Arrested Development and stuff like that. I don't remember what year that was. They're all kind of blending a little bit right now.
Yeah. Especially this is young DW. So like,
right.
You kind of like chronological order is not always the same thing with me. I can't quite put everything when it happened.
If it's not Salt and Pepper and Spin, like what are we listening to here?
Yeah. But like, so let's go into this song in particular. It's Decisions, Decisions. It's from a Soul Assassins album, which is a compilation album, which we don't really do that much of anymore. And it's really grimy underground hip hop. It's a straight loop. So it's a sample that just gets looped up. It has some dusty drums and it's just like rap bars over it. Really had that classic 90s hip hop sound. But like, to me, it's really interesting because the producer is West Coast. He's the producer of Cypress Hill. Mm-hmm. And this rap group is from Atlanta. And yet they made a perfect New York City boom bap rap song.
Yes. Agreed.
Okay, I want to talk about what I think is perfect about it. So I'm isolating CeeLo Green. He's part of this group, Goody Mob. They all rap.
Okay, can I pause you for a second?
Yeah, by all means.
First of all, when you sent me this song, I was not paying attention. And I thought you sent me this whole song to review. And I was thinking to myself, why you sent me this trash? People might get mad under it, but I'm saying what I immediately thought. Why you send me this trash? And it's not that Goody Mob is trash, right? There was pieces of it where I'm like, this is not a perfect song. Like in comparison to perfect songs that we know are perfect, is not it. And I was saying to myself, the only verse I can listen to on this is CeeLo Green's right now.
There you go.
And then I asked you, I was like, are we covering this whole song? And you said CeeLo Green's verse. I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. That verse was actually perfect to me. Yeah. I'm going to agree with you on this one.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay. We agree on this element. So not the song. And when I put it up there, I'll put the moment that CeeLo Green's verse starts. And that's the moment of perfection. I think it is important to point out, and again, no slight on the Goody Mob members. I've heard Goody Mob songs I like a lot. But part of what sometimes makes something feel so perfect is when you have this direct comparison to what else exists. And that in this case is the other Goody Mob artists. And they're like, this is okay 90s rap music. Like one of the dudes has a lot of like this Pac influence. And this is all happening. And then at one point, CeeLo Green comes on and it's like everything slows down. Like, in the movie, like when this moment happens. And it becomes like, holy shit, this is a different level than every other artist I've heard on this song. And it's not even close.
So different that CeeLo gets the majority of the song. And I'm not even mad at it. Now, again, I'm going to go back and say, when I say this is trash, this is a comparison to the perfection that like the songs that were like, this is absolutely perfect. Yeah. And I'm looking at all the different verses and all the verses that we've covered and knowing Goody Mob and listening to a couple of pieces, especially off of Soul Food. It's not the caliber. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I just want to place that for people. So they're not like, you calling Goody Mob trash? That's not what I'm saying. Yeah. I'm being very specific about what I'm saying is that in this context, when you do that comparison on the beat, it was almost like I didn't even need to listen to the whole song. Fast forward, boom, right here. Yeah. That's it.
And so to me, that's part of what like CeeLo Green's to me is like, even when he starts off, it's perfect. So you have this whole song that takes place before CeeLo Green starts rapping, and it's the different Goody Mob artists. And for lack of I haven't totally listened to their verses in depth, but it's kind of cliche stuff. Like I've heard other rap songs that sound like it, the beat, the delivery, nothing about it to me really stands out. And then the moment CeeLo Green's voice comes in, he's coming right after this guy who was like, like he's giving like 120% on every word. And he's like out of breath and he's like, ah. And then CeeLo Green just comes on like this casual, like walk in a summer afternoon park. And he just totally changes the tone, energy, the vibe. And you're immediately like, holy shit, this guy is different than the rest.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So I agree. And I think when you, as Goody Mob is a collective, I keep wanting to say Mob Deep. It's so crazy. But Goody Mob is a collective. I think they have these accents. You can see how they balance each other in certain ways. When you get on this verse, I completely agree in the way that CeeLo comes on. Like you said, it's a breath of fresh air on the whole track. It almost feels like I was listening to I think I was listening to Drink Champs. Yeah. And Pusha T. They were interviewing Pusha T. And Pusha was talking about how he was working with Pharrell and the production element on that, how Pusha was always writing a certain way, rapping a certain way. And then Pharrell was like, nobody wants to hear that anymore. People want to hear you ascend to another level. People want to hear characters. People want to hear storylines. And then it sounded like old Pusha T versus new Pusha T, right? Like the Pusha T that raps, get on songs, gives you straight bars. That's what the rest of the song sounded like in certain ways. I mean, it wasn't like straight bar, 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 you know, but the kind of sound was there. And then when you get to CeeLo, you get this whole other level and dimension. And it separates it by leagues, you know?
Yeah. No, it's really like this when the prodigy steps out in the piano class and starts playing after all the other piano students were playing. And like they're competent. They all played their own little song. Right. But then it's this moment of just absolute, that's better than everything else I'm hearing. And you can't make an argument against that.
Precisely. Yeah. Precisely.
So we'll talk more about CeeLo's voice, you know, but to kind of broadly speak to the content of the song, CeeLo Green is really giving advice to young artists who are trying to become successful artists and explaining to them the pitfalls that they'll face and the negative sides of the entertainment industry that they can fall victim to. And in certain regards, it's almost inevitable for them to overcome. I think he does a great job of this. There's another example Lupe Fiasco does on Daydreaming, where he has a verse in there where he takes a slightly different approach, but he really does this thing of explaining to or presenting this idea that an artist is being taken advantage of and basically exploited to create this success for an entertainment industry that doesn't actually care about the person or the artist that's creating it. And I'm curious, do you have one versus the other that you like more? Do you feel they're similar? Do you connect these two verses, or do you feel like they're not saying the same thing?
Well, I fucking love Daydreaming.
Yeah.
I love that song. You know, I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
The particular verse that you're talking about in the CeeLo Green verse, okay, there's a lot of different things. I connect to both of them for different reasons. I think when we're talking about lyrically in a different way, Lupe does something different. But CeeLo also does something different to me, cadence-wise, that's really nicely performed. You know, and at first, when I thought about the question, absolutely Lupe, without a doubt. But now that I'm sitting back and kind of thinking about the two verses, I think they both have this exceptionality about them that I can easily go either or.
Yeah, I mean, to me, when I hear him, I think that Lupe has the better song. Like the total song is much better than this song.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I think that Lupe's is actually more creative in how he presented it. I remember when I heard it the first time, it was like, oh, wow, that's a cool way to think of it, like to explain this idea. Whereas CeeLo's is more, you know, he's kind of just giving this very direct advice, like the older brother or the older uncle.
Can I back up?
You can.
I agree with what you're saying.
Okay.
Now that I think about it, it's like, actually, what you're saying is on point.
Yeah.
I back up and I agree.
What I think that I like about CeeLo's verse is I just think CeeLo's verse is more perfect and kind of captures this. It's like he takes you through the whole journey of this person's career, and like from beginning of being broke to being the end and being broke, and all the different nuances to what happens. So it's like 6 one way, half a dozen the other. Like, I don't think there's one that you can say is better, but they're both different in interesting ways. But I think it's cool how they really talk about a similar idea in a very powerful and amazing way. I also think CeeLo is a little better at being, maybe this is the person, not even just the verse, but he feels a little less preachy to me.
I was going to say to you, I was going to ask you that question. Which verse feels most conversational?
Wow, conversational. I think CeeLo sounds more like I'm in a conversation with him. That doesn't mean it's better. Some people may disagree. But yeah, I think CeeLo is more conversational. Lupe's one feels like it's like a production, and that's not a bad thing. I think it's part of what he was going for. It's like this massive, huge song. And it's kind of all thought out, and all the way that the beat comes in, the beat drops out, all these different things are pretty amazing in Lupe's song.
It's very textured when we go to the Daydream. I know people are like, I got to go listen to this Daydream song. Add it to the playlist.
Yeah.
but it's very, very level. There's a lot of different levels behind that particular, the verse that we're talking about on Daydream. There's a lot of different levels behind that. And also, I think too, with CeeLo's verse, it comes off very smooth and right in your face. There's a lot of different levels in this verse too. And I think the delivery, what is attractive to me is that it doesn't seem hard. When I listen to Lupe, it seems like Lupe is doing something difficult. Yeah. Meaning like doing something that is really great and grand, and it feels hard. Here in CeeLo's verse, what I love about it is that CeeLo it just seems effortless in that way. And to me, sometimes an effortlessness is what makes verses or songs like particularly wonderful to me.
I'll use an example. There's this anecdote, and it's from a movie, so like, please don't quote me on all this. I'm gonna fuck it up, I'm sure. But there's a king, and he's commissioning the artists in his kingdom to display how good of an artist they are. And these artists are getting up and they're painting these amazing things. They're doing this crazy sculpture with this interesting geometry and this painting with different colors, and it's a sunset, and it's fucking amazing. And then this one artist gets up and just on a piece of paper and a pencil, he draws a perfect circle in one moment. And that's actually the most impressive thing, because of just how the ability to just kind of like step in and just do this without spending too much time and energy on it. And to me, that's kind of like CeeLo's verse. He was just like, I'm gonna step in here, do this thing real quick, and then move about my day. And then meanwhile, it's this fucking amazing, to me, all-time great verse. There's no ad libs, there's no punching, there's no overdubs. It's just like he stepped in, it took him a minute and a half, and then he bounced. And that's amazing.
Yeah, I think, again, the thing that you're saying there is things that I've considered when I'm listening to the verse. I want to ask you, is there something particular when you look at the lyrics, you're like, yo, this moment right here, or a moment in the verse, whether that is breath, whether that is rhythm or cadence or rhyme scheme or structure, is there something in there that you're like, that is the perfect circle? That's what I mean. So
this verse to me, and I mean this completely, similar, like we did a Jadakiss verse a long time ago on Right Where You Stand. Totally different concepts, blah, blah, blah. But what I think both of these have in hand is, and again, I'm going to recall a memory I have of a teacher talking to me about poetry. And I don't remember the details. But basically the teacher was, there's this debate in class about what makes poetry. How come that just says like the sky is blue, ... And like, that's poetry. And then some other thing isn't poetry. And the teacher was trying to convey their opinion on poetry. And this teacher was a poet. It's like a college class. And the teacher was saying you can have great writing, which is great phrases, great words, good ideas. But poetry is when everything is perfect. It's the perfect word in the perfect place at the perfect time. And that's what makes it poetry and not just good writing. And this verse, there are moments that I can absolutely point to, but I like when I listen to the whole verse, there's no moment where I'm like, he kind of like was on cruise control for that bar. It's like the whole thing is perfect. One leads to the next. There's no moment.
Yes.
His breath control is perfect. It's a whole experience, the verse.
Okay. So I want to talk about this a little bit. Yeah. Because I went into the verse and I was like, what is it that makes this grand, this experience that I'm having? Why is it so robust? And I started to look, there's plenty of things in here when you talk about the story and all the pieces. And then I zero in on a couple pieces where I'm like, oh, what am I hearing? What is the sound here? And on these couple bars, and it's a shame that niggas would settle with the ghetto. Hoes and some clothes ain't making what you suppose. Because your eyes close to what your contract shows. Right? Of course, CeeLo says it way better than I say it. Mm-hmm. But the O's, right? The O's right there. And it sounds like shows, closed, and then you have like the moving of the O's and these S's. So it makes it sound like this kind of alliteration that's happening there, but you're getting this sound that is comforting, the O's and O's and O's. And it's almost like you're on a wave. You're just cruising this wave in these couple of bars right here. And it's smooth. Mm-hmm. And when you match it with the breath. So I was thinking about the breath. Oh, it sounds like you're losing your breath right here. But when you match the choice of words, it's almost like CeeLo knew, okay, if I say this hard vowel, I'm not going to be able to finish the rest of this line.
Yeah.
I have to make sure I smooth it out with a consonant, like an S.
Yeah.
He'd lead the letter or lead this with this. Like CeeLo really knew what words fit CeeLo.
Yeah.
And that to me is also like knowing the words that you can use in order for you to be able to, I don't want to say possess the song, but for a lack of a better term, I don't know another word, but like really have ownership of the song and the lyrics in a way that makes it special.
So you're 100% right. Like, and this is another thing where if you compare CeeLo to the other artists, when you record rap music or any music for that, there's this strategy called punching in. So someone is rapping and then they literally run out of breath and they can't continue their rap. So they stop. And then there's a punch thing where you then wait for where you last finished to end. And then you begin again with a fresh breath of air. And CeeLo does not do that. It's one long, continuous rap verse. He doesn't punch in at any point. And that takes real skill, thought, and talent. And that's exactly what you're hitting on. And he does it. And CeeLo's a genius. And you're right. I'm sure he was thoughtful. Like, I can't use this word. I have to use that word, or I need to slow this word down because otherwise I'll run out of breath.
Mm-hmm. And it's even when it goes into and you can hear it. You can hear the breath. It's almost like the breath is at the end.
Yep.
And then there's like, oh, I'm going to change this cadence a little bit or slant this word just this much or pause right here. Mm-hmm. And when you get to knee deep in the struggle, 2 part-time jobs to juggle, got a lady and a seed that you can hardly feed. And any day your life could end. So you depend on the reciting and the writing when you got the spare time to spend.
Yeah.
It's like a mouthful. Mm-hmm. And at this point, particularly, I'm listening to CeeLo. I'm like, are you going to run out of breath? Are you going to run out of breath? Yeah. You're going to run out of breath? And it sounds like it's the end for CeeLo. Mm-hmm. And then it's like you get that second win and CeeLo's just like, putting it in there. And it's really impressive. It's really impressive.
Yeah. If I were to kind of piggyback a little bit on yours, like moments, again, I think the whole verse is perfect. Moments to me that really hit home his skill and talent. A lot of what you're saying is this use of alliteration as far as sounds. And, even when he starts it, the relentless realism regardless represents, this is alliteration times 10. Mm-hmm. And then he goes, Southwest skills I possess and manifest in heaven sent. It's just, he's like coiling all these things together. And I can't emphasize enough how effortless he sounds while doing it.
Oh my gosh.
So part of what annoys me about current Eminem is he's doing some of the things that CeeLo Green is doing here, but it sounds like he's trying so hard to do it to me, the listener. Like, I feel like I'm being like assaulted by this like technical rap ability. Whereas with CeeLo, like, I feel like you could listen to the verse and not even notice the alliteration that's happening. You're just kind of vibing to it. And it's a big difference between those two things, even though they're technically the same thing.
It's like butter, as they would say in Diggable Planets. It's just butter. Even when you go that opening, because I highlighted that opening as being one of the highlights of the verse. The next couple bars is what's said is meant to the fullest extent. No nonsense because my conscience wouldn't be content.
Yeah.
So it's finishing off the alliteration at the top.
Yeah.
It's fucking dope.
No, it's amazing. Like, I just think this is genius level shit. And when you think back to 90s underground rap music, a very dismissed art form, even when I get into the YouTube comments, I'll talk about some people's kind of dismission of it. Dismission of it. Is that the right word? Dismissiveness of it.
Dismissive. You got it. You got it right there. Dismissive.
There was like actual genius level stuff happening. And CeeLo is a flawed person, but there isn't, he's a genius. And you see it in this verses, and then you see it later in CeeLo, the famous singer that we all became to know. I don't think it's a coincidence that he's successful in both things. I think he's just one of these artistic geniuses that can do stuff that other people can't. And
I'm hearing you say, all these things just make a lot of sense. When you say CeeLo is a flawed person, I'm really thinking about this perspective, because there's so many people that we cover in rap. Mm-hmm. And we're coming across these different pieces where it's like, oh my gosh, how do we do this? And thinking about, what if we thought about human beings as all people, like everybody's flawed. Mm-hmm. And how do we wrap our head around all of those pieces and recognizing the talent. And that's the constant question that I'm asking. Like, here's this flawed person, but maybe it's those pieces, those absent pieces of that person is what makes them more relevant in this arena.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, I think so. One thing that I think about too, when we talk about an artist who is flawed, who are also celebrating some amazing achievement that they have artistically, is there's this moment where I realize, like, this person isn't a deity or a god. This person has some really fucked up elements to him, just like I'm not perfect. And it's amazing that that's not the right way to put it, but as fucked up as this person can be, they're capable of this, which means that everyone is capable of this, because, you know, it doesn't take a perfect person to make something that is perfect.
Yes. I like how you put that. It doesn't take a perfect person to make something that is perfect.
Yeah. I think we're hitting on like this deeper idea that neither one of us has totally, like, you know, thrown a strike on, but
right. Bars though. Bars right there. No, I think, because when I'm looking at this, it's almost like, how can you, the stream of consciousness, there's something there. Even when we get back to the verse, and I love this little break that when you get to the last couple of bars, when we talked about this with Benny the Butcher too. No more ending up with no dough and no respect back in the projects and building 23 right next door to me. And then there's a laugh at the end.
Yeah. It's like an evil laugh.
Like, look where you don't went all the way around the block with your $20,000, which CeeLo refers to. Like, you didn't spent up all the things with your little advance in comparison to how much the labels are taking.
Yeah.
And they made you feel like you're rich because you have nothing.
Yeah.
You know, they're probably laughing and grinning, like as usual, whoever these people are who have this money, these white men who have this slave money that goes back to all these histories and wealth and wealth and wealth. And now they're laughing in your face because they gave you $20,000 and you think you hood rich, like you hood rich.
Yeah.
You know, and I think CeeLo says that, hood rich. Does CeeLo say hood rich in this? Did I make that up?
I don't remember that, but I'm not verbatim on it. Something about being in the hood. I don't know. But I think you're right. He's pointing out that your perception of success is not going to lead you to actual success. What you think success is doesn't actually make you happy.
Facts. Liam, I'm hands down. I'm certainly impressed by this pick.
Okay. I was excited. I'm going to put a bow on my, again, what I think is amazing on this song. So most verses, especially in the 90s, are 16 bars long. This one is way past 16. And I think this is one of those moments where it's like someone's in the zone and they were like, fuck it. Song structure, throw that shit out the window. CeeLo's doing something amazing. Just let him do his thing. And I hear that when I listen to it. The fact there's no overdubs, there's no ad libs. It's like the second he recorded it, I think everyone was like, done.
Yes.
It's over.
That's exactly, I think what you're saying, the with the bow, all that stuff. Yeah. I imagine that we were in the studio and people did their verses and they heard CeeLo's and they were like, you know what, fuck the rest of my verse. Just cut this verse in half, cut that verse in half. Hey, take them extra words out your verse. Hey, throw that shit away. You're not even on a song anymore.
Yeah,
you know exactly. What I mean? Like it was one of those things. And CeeLo just came in, like, I imagine CeeLo just had like maybe a blunt or something, smoked it real quick, had a sip of some tea or something. And it was like, play the beat. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's how I imagined CeeLo was in the studio and was like, I'm about to fuck this shit up.
So there's even an anecdote. So the producer of the song is DJ Muggs, who's this famous hip hop producer. And he was explaining when he was making this album, and particularly this song, he's playing it for Goody Mob. The Goody Mob people are all kind of providing their insight into the song and what's going to happen. And he explained that from the beginning, CeeLo didn't like the beat, wasn't fucking with it, was like, wah, womp, womp, you know. And there's a part where there's, as close as this song has to having a chorus. I'm trying to find out exactly what CeeLo says. Yeah, decisions to make. And then CeeLo has this part in there where he punches in and he does a little piece of the chorus. And I feel like when you listen to his voice in this moment, it sounds disinterested. He sounds like he's like, all right, fucking the whole group wants me to rap this little part here, so I'll do it. And he sounds disconnected, disinterested, almost like he's mailing it in. And I feel like you can hear that in his voice. And it's almost like he wasn't interested. He was disconnected. But then when he had to do his part and his contribution and get this thing off of his chest, he went into this like fucking locked in zone that's just pure perfection. And I feel like you can hear that even in the song, which is pretty amazing also.
Yes. I was thinking along those lines when you do the when CeeLo's verse comes on, I was thinking to myself, this beat is not, it's not something that I was like, oh, this is the beat.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost kind of, it's like you said, it's repetitive.
Yep.
It's mundane to me. It's not holding a lot of characteristics that I would find in a beat that I'm really attracted to. And I almost think that CeeLo on it is off. You know, meaning that CeeLo's rap is too good for the beat.
Yeah.
You know, and I find that a little bit like my challenge with it when I talk about CeeLo's verse is perfect, but the beat, now I'm finding that CeeLo ascends in a way that it's just kind of like they're off the page. They're off the production. They're in a whole nother space. Like the beat couldn't keep up with CeeLo. I
think this beat is lucky to be under CeeLo's voice. And I like the beat, but I'm just saying that's how good CeeLo's verse is. It's just like whatever beat was going to get picked is just like, thank God I'm part of this thing because this thing is about to go to a whole other level of it. Okay.
Facts. You got any comments? You said you went to the YouTube comments or you got some
I have a comment. I got one last question. Do you feel CeeLo Green is criticizing the industry or is he criticizing the young, naive artists who blindly feel success are all these shallow goals?
Everything. Both. And I don't know if it's necessarily, you could say criticism, but I think it's more of, here's this narrative. I want to say critique more than I want to say criticism. You know, because it's almost like CeeLo is, this is happening and you don't see it. You know, so I don't know. I don't know if criticism is the word for me. But does that answer your question?
It does. I think it's easy just to only blame the industry, although the industry, right, is this exploitive thing. And I think what he's trying to say is you need to know this going into it and you need to understand what your vision of success is versus, you know, success isn't what everyone tells you it is. It's got to be successful for you and you've got to find what that means for yourself.
Yes. I think it's above or it's more, I guess, robust than a criticism or critique. Yeah. It's just, it is. I don't know.
I think it's amazing how well it is still relevant today, right? What is this? Almost 30 years later. And you could literally play the song for a young artist and they could listen to it and really every word is still relevant to what they need to think about as they enter an industry that's going to try to exploit them.
Yeah, no, I was watching an interview with Goody Mob and one of the members said, you know, good music is good music, you know, no matter what time. That same epithet, I think, or sentiment that good music is good no matter what era you hear it in.
Okay, I have YouTube comments. I got a couple of them. All right.
Okay, let's do it.
So the first one is, quote, CeeLo's lines are so good, they actually had to turn down the beat for a few moments, unquote. And this hits to what you said, where the beat is just kind of like, it just accidentally happens during CeeLo's verse. And it doesn't matter if they turn it down, they turn it back up. I still like the beat, but the verse is just like overpowering. It's a dominant fucking force in this song. And
absolutely agree.
Jay-Z has this song called this lyric, and he's like, yeah, you're shining, but the only thing you're leaving out, you're a candle in the sun, and that shit don't even out. So like CeeLo's verse is the sun and the beat is a candle. I'm not shitting on the beat. I'm just saying it's like there's levels.
There's levels, yeah.
All right. Quote number 2. Quote, was a metalhead in 1996. Never thought hip hop could move me. Turns out all I'd ever heard was radio bullshit. This album and this track in particular blew my damn mind. Hail DJ Muggs. Unquote. And to me, this is a little bit what I was saying on earlier, is I think there was this whole rap music is a very diverse, deep art form music genre. And there's a lot of people who have an opinion on rap who see the kind of surface level stuff that's easy to access. And I can see how you could look at that and be like, I'm not impressed. And then to me, you have a verse like CeeLo Green's verse that we're talking about today that I think could be in the Smithsonian. It is literal perfection. It's poetry on the level that every word is in the perfect place at the perfect time. And it's perfectly said. And I think that's the epiphany this guy is having later in life. Like, holy shit, I just dismissed this whole thing without thinking about it. Lo and behold, there's real amazing stuff there.
No, I mean, I think you kind of giving me the smug look. What's that about?
No, I think I'm long-winded on it. So I'm like, and then I'm like letting you chime in, but I'm like, all right, well, you kind of said it already. I'm like, you keep repeating yourself, Leo. All right, last YouTube comment. I got it. This one, quote. This is a quote of a quote in the song. The industry will change you from the person you was. End quote of the quote in the song. And then the person comments, oh, CeeLo, oh, CeeLo. And they're implying like this song was a bit of a prophecy to what your life would become. Because again, CeeLo's had a problematic later years. And
yeah,
it definitely appears like he's been heavily impacted by the world. And I'm not one to sit there and judge too much because I don't know enough about CeeLo to know all the details of what's gone on. But he's definitely had some challenges, and they appear to look like some of the things that happen to you from working in an entertainment industry that totally skews your view of the world and humanity of the people around you. And I just thought that was a very kind of nuanced comment.
That's like this, what is it? Cameras, lights, flashing.
Yeah.
Like that song. And it's like how you stay faithful in a room full of hoes.
Yeah.
Right. So that line to me is kind of like, okay, you're putting it on other people instead of taking accountability for yourself. Well, when I sit back and think about it, if people were constantly in my face, how do I ground myself? What decisions do I make? Like, how can I make those decisions, especially being a young person growing? Me now, I probably be more likely like, get off of me, like security, handle that. Like, I don't want nobody to touch me, that I could probably imagine now. But as a young person, I was mischievous and curious about things. It wasn't a good idea to be in a relationship with me. Like, if you wanted to be in a relationship with me, it wasn't that I was going to be like, I'm not going to go lie, because I think truth is important for people to be able to be informed around, especially around intimacy. But the idea of me having to be faithful or whatever that means in whatever relationship is, like, it's impossible. It would have been impossible for me only because I didn't have that kind of self-control.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
No, it does. I think what's interesting about this comment, and again, I love it makes me as a reader infer a lot from the comment. Like, the commenter doesn't explicitly say what they're thinking, but you totally understand what they're thinking. And I think what's interesting is you have on one hand this person who's a genius, and I'm not smart enough to create the verse that CeeLo created there. So CeeLo's smarter than me, but it just shows if you look at someone's overall life, even genius people can do stuff that later on you're like, because later on he does some stupid shit. And you're like, how can someone on one hand do something so smart, intelligent, and thoughtful? And then, if you look at what's that, like Marriage Boot Camp, where I watched the show Marriage Boot Camp. It's CeeLo and his wife trying to like repair their relationship.
Oh, wow.
And it's fucking wild. Yeah, it's as wild as you expect. And how can someone be so smart, intelligent, and thoughtful and create literally a perfect verse? I don't care, not even just hip hop standards. I mean, poetry, the whole thing. To me, it's that good. And then on the other hand, be so tone deaf with basic human interaction with their wife. And it's like these two things together is just, I think the person does a great job of tying these two elements of CeeLo's life together.
So an elder said this once, and I was just like, oh, I never thought about it like that. They were saying that there are many different aesthetics to human beings. There's many different ways that we are fit and we are really conditioned in. Most of the world is conditioned in physical fitness. Like, that is something that people strive for. Not most of the world, but a lot of people strive for physical fitness. And they were saying, if you can look at me, it's easy to see that that is not my condition.
Mhm.
I'm not physically fit and in shape in that way. But relationally, I am excelling in my fitness. And it brings me to this thought of, we can excel in these different areas that we may spend. So, like, for instance, in the world of capitalism, I can excel in manipulative language. Oh my gosh, that word I could not get it out. I don't even think I got it out. You can excel in this language that allows you to become a capitalist that continues to have this money, per se, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your relational aesthetics, like your relational fitness, you've sacrificed that because you've chosen this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And when that person was saying what they were saying, I was thinking to myself, like, oh, there were moments where I found myself sacrificing different levels of fitness in different parts of my life because I was excelling at one piece. And I think it kind of speaks to the fact that we're taught to excel at certain pieces and that other pieces we shouldn't excel at. And I think when we take CeeLo and other people for that matter, they're excelling in certain areas and they're taught that it's okay to excel in these areas and not pay attention to the other areas. So we're not as well-rounded humans as we could be. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's what I think about CeeLo. I have some questions.
Okay. All right. I'm ready to answer some questions.
I only have two because I feel like this can get deep real fast.
Okay.
I was listening, like I said, I was listening to some interviews with Goody Mob.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the members they were referring to, we were talking about this a little bit before, like you were talking about this a few comments back. Rap and balance. They were referring to when you listen to rap now, you don't hear as much balance. Meaning, like, people say, oh, positive rap and conscious rap and stuff like that. I just think rap is rap. But the people who create the raps may not have balance, meaning that there's so much of this kind of rap that you're hearing all the time versus you hearing quote unquote positive rap. That positive rap is actually a thing now, right? Or conscious rap had to be a thing because there's so much of this other stuff. But my question for you is, can you name some artists that you think have balance in their music?
Like both quote unquote good and bad, both sides of the coin?
I'd say, just more dimension, multi-dimensional that creates this balance.
So to give a good answer where I actually felt good, like I was making a good point, it would maybe take me some time to think about. The kind of dumb answer is like Nas. He made Uchi Wally Wally and he made I Can, right? And in a shallow sense, that is balance. But I don't know if that... it just seems like they were just wild swings from a pendulum in different directions versus some sort of thoughtful, balanced approach. I'd have to give more thought than that to really come up with like a academic response to like a balanced hip hop artist. I feel like real balance is when you hear it in the same verse or the same song, both elements simultaneously. And I feel like my Nas example doesn't show that. This is just wild, different, completely stratosphere different.
Yeah, I love how you say that, though. I love it because it's almost like when you take the definition, what is your definition of balance, right? Because someone could say balance, good, bad, which is binary. Yeah. Right? Like very male, female. But when you talk about, well, there could be balance that doesn't have to exist very hot and cold in that way.
This verse is a perfect example of that type of balance. On the one hand, CeeLo is criticizing this industry that exploits young artists. And in particular, if you want to talk about rap music, which is what he's talking about, young Black artists trying to enter a predominantly white money entertainment industry. He's being very critical of the industry and how it exploits these people. On the other hand, he's putting some accountability on the young Black rapper and saying, you need to be smart and you can't just fall for all this dumb shit. And if you do, you're going to end up being right back next to me. And there's balance even in that, where he's like, hey, I'm still in projects too. Like,
yeah,
to me, there you go. I feel much better about my answer now than I did about my Nas answer earlier.
Word. I think they're both great, great examples of how people could define balance. Here's another question.
Yeah.
So in the interview, somewhere in the interview, Goody Mob, they're talking about music, Atlanta music, and how it starts getting spins, it starts getting popular. Or like how do you know it's hot? When you drop something, how do you know it's hot? And one of the members says, we know it's hot because of the strip club. Club culture really helped grow Atlanta music culture. And I thought that was fascinating because I never thought about that conceptually. So then I thought to myself, I wonder if Liam has a strip club story worth sharing. Do you have one of those? Is it worth sharing?
Yeah, it may not be worth sharing. So I'm not this sounds like I'm easy to say, like, of course Liam's deep. He's not into strip clubs. I have been to strip clubs. I've been there more with friends of mine who are enthusiasts than myself. Man, I feel like there's nothing good I can say from this whole story. Oh no, I probably shouldn't say this either. I remember being like 16 or 17 and I had a radio show, and this fan from jail of the radio show got out of jail, and it was older, obviously. And then was like, I'm going to take you and all your friends to a strip club. And we're like dramatically underage. And he's like connected somehow with a strip club. I don't know. He's just got out of jail. There's some shit going on I didn't know about. I'm glad I didn't know about. And then we go to this like real sleazy strip club, and it was my first experience ever. And I'm like, holy shit, young Liam is like, my eyes are like flying saucers. And then the strip club was so run down that it was just a boombox on a stage. I remember the stripper had to like, the song finished, and she like got over there and like, those like CD booklets that you like open up and you pull out the CD. So she changed the CD to change the song. No. And I was like, it's because in my mind, like the strip club was more glamorous than this. So like when my first experience with this a strip club, it was pretty stark and jarring.
Liam, I have a pretty glamorous experience of the strip club.
Do you? Okay.
Do you want to hear this?
I would
story?
like to hear this. Yeah.
I'm gonna do my best to wrap it because it goes in stages.
Okay.
I used to be a personal trainer, like a fitness club.
Some fancy fitness clubs.
Yeah, I used to be
like
training.
Top tier shit. Yeah, it was not like the mom and pop joint.
I used to be a training manager, and one day we get a call from Hooters. Hooters is opening up, and they're like, "Yo, we want to get a trainer to come train the Hooters waitresses." And we get the call, and I'm like, my judgmental self, fuck that shit. I'm not going over there. Don't ask. Don't even ask. Like everybody's looking around, who's going? It's like, don't. And I give the look. Right. And
it's funny. That's true.
The day that one of the managers has to go down there to do a workout, because it's basically you work out, so we market the club or whatever. The day that the other manager is supposed to go, they're not available. So of course, I'm the only one available. So then I go to Hooters, and they're building this place. They have these waitresses in the uniforms, and we know what Hooters is like: high shorts, like just
boobies,
just titties everywhere.
Yeah. Right.
And so I'm just like, how the fuck did I get here? Being hella judgmental. But here are people who just need to make their money. You know what I mean? Like, and actually, we have this fucking phenomenal time. I'm like, with all of the Hooters waitresses, we're having a phenomenal time. I'm working them out, and they're like, this is amazing. Oh my gosh, DW, we love you. Right. So there's like 40 of these waitresses that I see. Couple days later, they give us VIP passes to the Hooters opening. I didn't know this was a big deal. They're like, yo, DW, you got to come through. So then I invite one of my friends to come through. So you have both of the queerdos coming through. And like, we're fly ass, like, we stand out. We're like dark skin, athletic build.
I've never heard that expression before. I'm sorry.
This athletic build, smooth, suave ass. This is how I interpret myself in my 20s. Suave ass people who are just like very likable. Mm-hmm. And I come in, and you have all these people who have mad money, mad rich white guys with their wives. Everybody's like, oh, Hooters, 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 Hooters. We get in there, and I'm the fucking rock star. I come in, and the waitresses are like, DW, oh, come sit here. Oh, no, we got you drinks. Don't worry about it. Don't worry, because the fucking workout I gave them was great.
That's good.
All the people are looking at me. They're looking at me like, who the fuck is this person? And why is their whole crew getting treated like VIPs? Oh my gosh, I felt like I was a billionaire. I'm not even gonna lie. So we're there. All the Hooters waitresses are on us. And I'm like, yo, this is great. Right. And then these white guys are like, how do you get women like that? This is literally what they said to us. How do you get women
to
like
you?
that?
Like, how did you
To
attain
myself.
these women? Okay.
Yeah, to myself.
What's the secret? Okay.
What's the secret? Okay. To myself and to my friend. And then they were like, can you take us to the strip club so we can get women like you?
Wow.
I kid you not. This is a story. So we all roll deep to the strip club.
Really? Okay. Yes. This is quite the group.
Roll deep with these, like, it's like 5 white guys, like just your blue, like white collar looking white guys. We go into the club and they're dropping bills for us. I'm telling you, like we go to the strip club. Mind you, I go into the strip club. I've been there before. So I know one of the strippers. The strippers happen to have a crush on me. I don't know. I'm in love with the stripper. I'm going to T-Pain, right? All this shit is happening. So there's this one stripper that I'm like, yo, that's going to be like my person, you know, whatever. I don't know. I was convincing myself. We get there with these white guys. They were dropping bands. We don't have to drop a fucking dime. Mm-hmm. They're throwing money. And the strippers are coming over and they're like, yo, help us out. So, you know, I have this love connection with one of the strippers that's there. And she comes in, what do they call them? Motorboat? Where the breast.
Is that where you like press your face up against the boobies and there's wiggling going on?
And they're like, oh my gosh, correct. This is the best time of my life. And me and my friend are fucking dying. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, yo, just give me another drink. We're good. You know, and like I go and this stripper that I know, we start to wrap up the night and we're about to leave. And apparently the stripper liked me too. And the most crazy thing happened that I was just like, okay, I think this is the cherry on top, where the security guard had to come over and get the stripper off of me.
Wow.
It was wild. Like I'm topping it off. I have drinks. I have other people's cash. We're spending everybody else's money. It's such a great experience. And then the stripper comes over and like literally tries to impale me. I don't know how this happened. I don't know how all of her parts winded up all over my face. And the security guard had to lift the stripper up off of me.
I don't know. The security came for the stripper, not you.
For the stripper, not for me. And I was like, and my friend was looking at me like, yo, what's going on? And I'm like, I don't know. And the white guys were like, this is the greatest time of my life. That is my stripper story.
Well, damn, yours beats mine. Not surprisingly.
Long thing. What does Dad have to say?
Okay. Do you think my dad knows who CeeLo Green is?
I'm going to go with yes, because CeeLo pops off a little bit later in life.
Okay. I have recorded evidence to confirm or deny this assumption.
Do you know an artist by the name of CeeLo?
Yeah, CeeLo Green, right?
Boop, boop, boop. I did it. All right. What is your singular most fantastical moment of this verse?
The verse is so perfect that I can't pick one, but the laugh after the verse was like, to me, CeeLo being like, I just fucking destroyed this shit. I did something that no one else can do. Like that's it. I'm done.
I'm so tired of you picking my fantastical moments. Like, I'm so tired. I'm so tired of you thinking the way that I think. So I have a backup.
Okay, let's see backup. But we did agree on the fantastical moment. Then.
We did.
Okay, what's the backup?
My backup is the relentless realism, regardless, represents Southwest skills I possess and manifest and is heaven sent. Right, the opening verse.
One of the most amazing bars. Fucking jump ins ever.
Yeah, for sure. Yo, so where can they listen to the song? Do you know where?
So we'll definitely link YouTube, Spotify. The biggest thing to keep in mind is this is not a CeeLo Green song. If you search CeeLo, you won't find it. You actually have to type in Soul Assassins Chapter 1. Oh my God. Decisions featuring Goody Mob. So CeeLo is nowhere to be found in any of the things that drive you to the song, but it is without a doubt a CeeLo song.
Liam, how can we make it easy for listeners to listen to the song? Where could they go?
We have a playlist on Spotify and YouTube that can easily be accessed through all of our known social media entities.
In the words of D-Thang, gang, gang, gang. That's it right there.
That's it right there.
So if you have any perspectives on this song, this verse, we'd love to hear it. You can just hit us up on Instagram at What's Perfect Really Podcast. You can hit us up on email. You can hit us up on our email at whatsperfectreallypodcast@gmail.com. And we are also on Twitter at What's Perfect Really. That's What's Perfect Really without any of the vowels. That's WHTSPRFCTRLY. And we invite you to take what you want from this podcast and leave what you don't, because ain't nobody perfect. Peace, y'all.
Hello. You are watching an informative video to learn more about an English word. Perfect. P-E-R-F-E-C-T. Perfect. Definitions of perfect. Adjective. Having all the required or desirable elements, qualities, or characteristics, as good as it is possible to be. Perfect.